He was at a loss for words. Then again, a flicker of memory surfaced. Julian had lectured him on this before. Many of the folk possessed healing abilities. Once, it had been a mystery to him, but now a faint understanding dawned. Perhaps it was because when it came to injuries, the raccoon spirits had a wealth of first-hand experience. If Wyatt stepped in, Leo's own efforts would be redundant. He chose to force the issue. Leo suggested that Chloe might feel better with a nightcap, that perhaps it would improve her rest. Someone in the room, not privy to her recent troubles, asked if Chloe was having difficulty sleeping. Chloe's ordeal was still known only to a select few, but she saw no point in hiding it now. She admitted in a weary voice that during the theme park shoot, she felt like she'd bumped into something, and hadn't felt right since. A chorus of advice erupted. One actor insisted he knew a psychic who was astonishingly effective. Another boomed that a trip to the Serenity Bell Tower was the only real solution. It seemed everyone had a story, a connection to something just beyond the veil of the ordinary. Wyatt, who had been withdrawn into himself, slowly lifted his head. He recognized Chloe as one of the people who had helped him before. As Leo expected, upon hearing her plight, the reclusive spirit gradually rose to his feet. Leo let out a silent sigh of relief. With Wyatt intervening, he wouldn't have to resort to secretly burning nail clippings and touching her. Just as Wyatt stood, another person ambled past, leaning against the wall above him to take a call. The shadow fell over Wyatt, and he immediately collapsed back to the floor, curling into a tight ball, his body pressed against the ground as if trying to disappear. He lay there, motionless, a picture of absolute desolation. Leo felt a surge of frustration. It was just a person standing over him. Was he being crushed by a physical shadow or a psychological one? For a moment, Leo considered giving up on the creature entirely. But after a long moment of feigned death, Wyatt seemed to gather his courage. He sat up and shuffled closer, positioning himself behind Chloe. He began to blow softly on her back. One breath, two, then three. Chloe felt a sudden coolness on her back, dismissing it as a draft from an open window. Then, she wasn't sure if it was just in her head, but after being in the stuffy room for so long, a warmth began to spread through her. The oppressive fatigue, that chilling sensation that had clung to her, started to recede. She interrupted the others, who were still offering their suggestions, her voice filled with a dazed surprise. She felt much better now, actually. She recounted how Mark, the director, had told her that Leo had a grounding presence and that she should spend more time around him. And now she genuinely felt an improvement. A wave of laughter filled the room. Someone asked if that was for real. Only Ethan remained serious, his voice firm. He believed it, he really did. He declared that Leo had nerves of steel. One of the actors, shuffling a deck of cards, challenged him. If his nerves were so steely, would he dare join their game? A few of them playing poker asked Leo why he never participated when they invited him, wondering if he even knew how. Leo explained that it was usually because he was too exhausted, but of course he knew how to play. He casually took a seat and accepted a hand, telling them to deal him in. Wyatt, who had been about to retreat back into his self-imposed isolation, hesitated. He slowly turned and crept back, settling on the floor with his face resting on the edge of the mattress. With a look of profound world weariness, he stared at the cards laid out on the bed and let out a soft puff of air. It was almost unbelievable. When Leo looked at his hand, he saw a monster. Besides a pair of aces, he had a full house and a straight flush draw. Not a single useless card. He was the big blind. He played the hand through, and the other two players never even got a chance to bet. Exclamations about his incredible luck filled the air. One hand like that could be a fluke. Everyone gets a monster hand eventually. The problem was, from the moment Leo started playing, he didn't lose. Not once. He left the others dumbfounded, suspecting him of cheating, but his hands were clean, and the stakes were too low for it to be worth the trouble. Leo finally decided he'd had enough. He saw Wyatt shrinking under the collective human attention, growing more miserable by the second, and he felt a pang of sympathy. Besides, it was an unfair victory. While all the critter cabal were revered as bringers of fortune, living in shrines people built for them, the truest patrons of prosperity, the ones most associated with wealth, were the raccoons. The old folklore claimed they would nest in people's attics, and the word for attic was close to the word for treasure. Looking at Wyatt's timid, self-doubting demeanor, Leo had questioned his professional competence. Now, it seemed that as long as Wyatt could overcome his crippling social anxiety, his skills were undeniable. Leo even felt he could almost forgive the creature for having once startled him so badly. The other two players protested, insisting he couldn't just quit after winning. They declared they would sit out and let two others take their places, even switching seats. They refused to believe his streak could continue. Leo remarked on their gambler's spirit, which earned him a chorus of good-natured jeers. They were determined to see just how far his improbable luck would go. Leo, for his part, had to play along with the strangeness. He put on a show of smug satisfaction, only remarking at the end that maybe it was just a lucky spot. He claimed he'd never been this good at cards before. It was just a string of unbeatable hands. This time, the players changed, and the seating was rearranged. The two new opponents were Ethan and Chloe. Leo noticed Wyatt's internal conflict. Leo had been instrumental in his spiritual progress, but the other two had also shown him kindness. They had only bumped into him, not run him over. The raccoon spirit scratched his head, blew 2 puffs of air in Leo's direction, and then 1 puff each toward Ethan and Chloe, maintaining what he seemed to consider a fair ratio. As a result, Leo's win rate dropped. It was no longer so ridiculously one-sided, but he still won more than he lost. And even in his losses, he usually managed to play a strong game, with the others winning by only a narrow margin. Someone praised him as the king of spades of their film set and posted a short video to the crew's group chat, announcing that Leo's luck was off the charts and everyone needed to get in on it. Several actors who were present chimed in, embellishing the tale of his uncanny card-playing prowess. They marveled that Leo hadn't just been avoiding their games because he was a novice, but because he was operating on a completely different level. Luck, they concluded, was its own kind of skill. The director, Mark, popped up in the chat, questioning if it was true. He sent a digital gift card, noting that his own luck with these things was notoriously terrible. He was the kind of guy who, in a 2-person draw, would get $1 while the other person got 99. He declared his luck was feeling good today, though, and he would give it a shot. After sending it, he tried to claim it himself but wasn't the first. When he checked again, it was already gone. The person who had claimed the largest share was, predictably, Leo. The group egged the director on to send a couple more to test the theory. Mark typed back that it was unnatural and he was done playing. Regardless, Wyatt's spiritual influence had supercharged Leo's finances for the evening. He sent several large gift cards to the group chat himself, announcing he was sharing the luck, which finally quelled the commotion. It was getting late, and people decided it was time to sleep before another long day of work. They began to file out of Leo's room. As they left one by one, Leo felt a wave of exhaustion and was about to relax, but he heard Wyatt let out a much deeper sigh of relief first. The spirit stood with his head bowed and hands limp, murmuring about how glad he was that they were finally gone. Wyatt's social phobia was clearly severe. With nothing else needed from him, the spirit began to shuffle away, his steps heavy with fatigue. Leo watched him go, shaking his head with a sense of helpless amusement. That night, however, Leo's sleep was restless. Around midnight, he gave up and climbed out of bed. He burned a message for Old Man Bill. He needed to know if he'd heard of the cornerstone charms. Just before dawn, Bill materialized at his bedside, looking as morose as Wyatt. He was slumped over, his head hanging just above the headboard, nearly giving the newly awakened Leo a heart attack. Bill's voice was a low whisper, asking if Leo now knew about the cornerstone charms. He wondered if the Vixen's people had told him. Leo explained that he'd heard about it from his colleagues on the film set and asked what was really going on. A sense of dread settled in his stomach. It seemed his premonition was correct. The theft of the Founder's keys was not a simple matter. He ventured a guess, asking if it was possible someone had stolen them while wearing a Reaper's badge. He remembered what Bill had said the other day. A living person wearing a Reaper's badge was like a half-ghost, invisible to ordinary people. The cornerstone charms and the Founder's keys had vanished without a trace. Most people assumed it was an inside job or a sophisticated heist, but Leo couldn't shake the image of that stolen badge. He just hoped he wasn't overthinking it. Bill's voice grew heavy. That was exactly it. He explained that the charms and keys were secondary. The most critical part was the set of Founder's keys that corresponded with the cornerstones. He asked Leo if he'd ever wondered why keys would be buried under a cornerstone. The only major recent event Leo knew of was the one, so his mind immediately jumped to spiritual anchors. He wondered if the Founder's keys were a type of ward. He recalled seeing a documentary about how historical buildings in Washington, D.C. had various objects embedded in their foundations to ward off evil. Special coins, blessed threads, inscribed texts. But those were to protect a single building. If the Founder's keys were wards, they felt more like wards for an entire city. As he suspected, Bill nodded grimly. The whole of Los Angeles was built on a symmetrical grid of energy. A central ley line connected the downtown sprawl, the old city center, the studio lots, and the Hollywood Hills. The spot where the cornerstones were buried fell directly on this axis. This line was nearly aligned with the planet's meridian, off by only a couple of degrees. Mundane scientists described the meridian as a line connecting the true North and South poles. But in their world, it was also where negative energy was most concentrated. Even the most powerful entities avoided sitting directly on it. The heads and tails of the Founder's keys, however, were deliberately pierced by this meridian, the keys themselves corresponding to the turning of the day. They were one of the 5 original anchors of the old city, meant to neutralize the meridian's hostile energy. Unfortunately, after decades of change and redevelopment, they were lost, replaced by new spiritual architecture. Now, both the new and old sets of anchors were compromised. The Vixen was handling the new set, but the old set was being managed by some of the living practitioners who dabbled in the affairs of the other side. The world was changing too fast. They lacked potent artifacts and were constantly bickering amongst themselves, with no one willing to yield to another. They had finally agreed on a plan. Bring back the Founder's keys, use the old artifact to create a new spiritual array, and stabilize the central nexus. But then that audacious Coyote clan had thrown the city into even more chaos by stealing the Founder's keys as well. At first, Leo was confused. He remembered the actors on set saying some tycoon had bought them. Then it clicked. Of course, tycoons believed in this stuff too. They were probably the financial backers for these practitioners. Leo asked if the Vixen hadn't interrogated all the Coyote clans when she summoned them. Could they really not identify the culprit? Bill admitted that was the most baffling part. All the known coyote clans were accounted for at a summit up in the hills when the theft occurred. The current theory was that it might be some unaffiliated rogue spirit from out of town. Leo had assumed that, with the vixen on the case, a resolution was certain. The thought of lingering complications was disheartening. He told Bill that they had his sympathies, and that he would keep an eye out for any clues while he finished his work. Bill grumbled that it was their duty, told Leo to focus on his job, and said he had to leave because there was so much damn work to do. He cursed under his breath and began to fade away. Leo frowned, a deep worry for his friends settling in. He didn't fully understand the situation, but Bill hadn't even asked for payment. That was a sign of how serious things were. Just then, Bill reappeared, slapping his forehead. He demanded some cash. Leo, his face impassive, turned to get the offering money. It seemed things were stable enough for now. He could focus on filming. Bill happily counted the spirit money, tucked it into his spectral coat, and turned to leave again. Leo muttered to himself about how a son traveling far from home makes a father worry. Bill heard him, flinched, but forced himself to ignore it and vanished. As for Chloe, exhausted from the evening's excitement, she went back to her room, washed up, and fell asleep the moment her head hit the pillow. She slept soundly, without a single dream, and woke the next morning feeling completely refreshed, the gloom of the past few days finally gone. Leo, she thought, was a miracle worker. When she arrived on set, her vibrant appearance caught Mark's attention. He asked if she was all better. Chloe smiled and confirmed that it was all thanks to playing poker in Leo's room last night. Leo quickly demurred, saying it had nothing to do with him, that Wyatt was the one who cured her. Chloe just grinned, telling him not to be modest. She declared he was fearless, a pillar of positive energy, more effective than any psychic. It was no wonder, she said, that strange occurrences seemed to fizzle out around him. Leo thought to himself that overnight he'd apparently become some kind of legendary hero. Mark, however, was stroking his chin thoughtfully. He remarked how everyone kept saying that whenever they had a strange encounter with Leo around, nothing bad ever happened. A peculiar thought suddenly struck him. Why was it that Leo was always present whenever someone had a strange encounter? A cold sweat nearly broke out on Leo's back. Chloe, too, was momentarily stunned, but she quickly recovered and loudly proclaimed that it was because of the year's astrological alignments. Hadn't everyone heard the Serenity Bell Tower ringing at an odd time of year? She insisted that paranormal incidents were just more common lately. Fortunately, Mark was only joking. He laughed it off, but just as he was about to move on, Ethan suddenly gasped. He held up his phone, exclaiming that Leo's luck was just too good. He had only asked Leo to share a promotional post, so how did he end up winning the grand prize? Took Leo a moment to process. He asked if it was the post he'd shared for Ethan last night. He'd done it as a favor without even reading the details. It turned out the post had a prize draw with 3 tiers. The grand prize was a cash award plus signed memorabilia from the show. Mark was silent for a moment. Then, his eyes wide with envy, he shouted that he knew Leo was the strange one all along. He jokingly called for someone to seize the anomaly. Leo threw his arms up in mock surrender and yelled for the director to send out gift cards. Ethan and Chloe immediately joined in, chanting for the director to send gift cards. The rest of the crew, oblivious to the preceding conversation, didn't catch the words strange or anomaly. They only heard director and gift cards. Like a horde of zombies, they swarmed Mark, sweeping him away. Only the director's hands were visible above the crowd as he yelled, his earlier logic forgotten, about why he should have to pay just because Leo won. Leo watched coolly as the tide of actors swallowed the director whole, feeling a sense of relief. Thanks to Wyatt's occasional visits to bestow good fortune, Leo had become the film set's resident good luck charm for the next few days. It was exhausting. Pretending not to see Wyatt was one thing. He'd had over 20 years of practice at that. But Wyatt had taken a liking to hovering beside him and blowing cool air on him. If he had at least switched sides, it might have been tolerable. But the severely phobic spirit almost always stood in the exact same spot, as if it gave him a sense of security. The constant chilly draft was starting to feel like it would give him arthritis. Leo even began to suspect this was the legendary dark side of the critter cabal. Would he end up spending all his sudden windfall on treating joint pain? He wondered when Wyatt would finally feel his debt of gratitude was repaid and leave. During a break on set, Leo dozed off and dreamed his hand was freezing. When he was jolted awake by a commotion, he instinctively glanced to his right. Thankfully, Wyatt wasn't there. It was just a nightmare. The noise was his colleagues crowded around someone's phone, gossiping. Ethan's voice was the loudest. He was saying that this theft was even more shocking than the Cornerstone charms. They had stolen a Pegasus. Leo's sleepiness vanished. A Pegasus? Had he misheard? Felt like too many things were being stolen lately. Even Leo, who usually tried to avoid getting too curious, couldn't help but walk over and peer at the phone. He asked what they were talking about. Ethan showed him his phone, reading from a news feed. He explained that a new indie film, Winter Bloom, from Olympus Pictures, had been released today. Audiences across the country had noticed something strange. The iconic Olympus logo, the one with the Pegasus soaring over a mountain against a full moon, was altered. The Pegasus was gone. All that remained were the mountain and the moon. On set, everyone was usually too busy to check their phones much. Winter Bloom wasn't a major release, but Olympus Pictures was a huge, well-known company. Everyone had grown up seeing that soaring Pegasus logo in countless films. It was practically a national icon. People even made memes about it, like drawing the Pegasus snatching up the logos of companies Olympus acquired. No one ever imagined the Pegasus itself could be snatched. Looking at Ethan's screen confirmed it. A trending topic online was Olympus's Pegasus stolen. Countless viewers were posting photos and videos of the altered logo at the start of the film. The story had been circulating for half a day. At first, people thought it was a Photoshop prank, but as more and more evidence from theaters poured in, the public finally accepted it was real, sparking massive online discussions. The topic was buzzing with theories. Some thought it was a marketing stunt, but others countered that it made no sense for an indie art film to pull a stunt by defacing its own parent company's logo. It wasn't unheard of for studios to create custom logos to match a film's theme, like animating the logo for a cartoon or putting a spacesuit on it for a sci-fi movie. But Winter Bloom was a niche film, and its content had nothing to do with a missing Pegasus. More importantly, Olympus Pictures was a notoriously conservative, old-school company. They had never once altered their main logo for any film. The idea that they would suddenly change it now without any announcement was absurd. A company of that size with such a powerful brand would have to be insane to change it so casually. An entertainment blogger claimed to have an inside source at Olympus who said that even the employees were in the dark and an internal investigation was underway. This suggested it could be a deliberate, malicious act. The logistics of it were baffling. It would be impossible to alter every single digital copy distributed to theaters. So, if the master file was changed, when did it happen? It had to be an insider. But why? Leo found it slightly amusing, wondering who would go to the trouble of stealing a digital Pegasus. The crew chimed in with their own theories, most agreeing it was likely an inside job with an unknown motive. It had a bizarre, unprecedented feel to it. They'd seen websites get hacked, but never anything like this. Just as they were discussing hacked websites, Ethan's phone buzzed. It was a message from a private group chat of industry insiders, known for its reliable gossip. He looked up from his phone, his face a mask of shock. It wasn't just the film's opening. The Pegasus was gone from every version of the Olympus logo everywhere. The official website, internal forums, everything. Re-uploading the file did nothing. The IT department was stumped, and the cybersecurity experts they hired were equally clueless. The internal investigation was real, and they were throwing everything they had at it. A rumor was circulating among the top executives that if the Pegasus wasn't found, Winter Bloom would be temporarily pulled from theaters. A wave of stunned silence fell over the group. Was this the work of some master hacker? Even so, pulling the film seemed like an extreme reaction. Chloe was incredulous, instinctively guessing it had to be a publicity stunt. She thought it was a wild scheme to get people into theaters to see the strange indie film. What kind of production would play such a high-stakes game? Ethan exclaimed that he didn't know. His friend was just as shocked, but insisted the higher-ups were dead serious. If the Pegasus wasn't restored, future films could also be affected. Everyone was dumbfounded. Olympus was a major studio. Winter Bloom was an art film that wasn't expected to make much money anyway, so pulling it wasn't a huge loss. But they had big-budget blockbusters lined up. They couldn't be serious. Even coming from Ethan, the news was hard to believe. Chloe found it impossible to accept that Olympus would risk so much. She wondered if it was just an exaggeration to show how seriously they were taking it. If they actually halted their upcoming productions, would their cash flow survive? Would their parent corporation, Olympus Holdings, even allow it? Olympus Holdings was a nearly century-old conglomerate, founded by a former vaudeville star turned theater magnate who had transitioned into film production. The company had witnessed the entire evolution of American cinema and grown into a media titan with interests in numerous industries. They were particularly protective of their foundational film division. The current head of Olympus Pictures was the eldest son of the corporation's chairman. Ethan said it was true. He now suspected it was related to an internal power struggle, a way to embarrass the chairman's son. It definitely looked like an inside job. A hacker could take down a website, but this affected a nationwide theatrical release. The logos on all the prints were wrong. Everyone fell silent, contemplating the kind of high-stakes family drama that would lead to pulling films from theaters. Then Ethan had a thought. He turned to Leo. He remembered that the indie film Leo had shot with director Julian, The Chase, was funded by Olympus. Leo, still groggy from his nap, was stunned into full wakefulness. He realized Ethan was right. If Olympus was in trouble, would it affect the production of The Chase? He put his head in his hands, feeling dizzy. He had just been an amused spectator, and now his own project was at risk. Ethan knew, and soon anyone with industry connections knew. The news spread like wildfire. Although Olympus publicly maintained it was an internal technical issue they were investigating, all sorts of rumors were flying. Netizens were having a field day. Some believed it was an internal power struggle aimed at sabotaging the studio head. Others thought it was corporate espionage, a rival trying to humiliate Olympus. A more imaginative theory suggested a supernatural cause, pointing out that 2 days had passed and they still couldn't even fix their own website logo. There were whispers that the corporation had brought in spiritual consultants. Several self-proclaimed mystics on social media claimed that the logo had been stolen through magical means. One guru declared that Olympus without its Pegasus was just a barren mountain. Though Olympus had a reputation for being superstitious, This seemed too outlandish for most. It had to be a hack. The idea of stealing a Logos Pegasus with a spell was unheard of. The online jokes began immediately. People wondered if only the Pegasus was being targeted. Someone made a bold suggestion about stealing the eagle from the presidential seal. Others joked about magically stealing the golden arches from McDonald's. All sorts of theories circulated, offering something for every type of conspiracy theorist to enjoy. The box office for Winter Bloom actually saw a significant spike because of the controversy, but if the rumors were true, it might be pulled from theaters before its run was over, making its fate a subject of intense speculation. After 2 days of this escalating frenzy, the story had become a modern urban legend. Just as the gossip reached its peak, Julian called Leo. He asked if Leo knew about the missing Olympus Pegasus. Leo replied that the whole country knew. Julian sighed. He explained that since the chase was still in post-production, he was caught up in the mess. He had a long-standing relationship with Olympus Pictures and was frustrated by the situation. Leo asked anxiously if it could be resolved. It wasn't every day a relative unknown got a major role in a film by a famous director. Julian said it was hard to say. The reason he was calling was because the whole affair was deeply strange. The Olympus logo had been designed by a very famous geomancer decades ago. It was considered a linchpin for the entire company's spiritual well-being. That master had been involved in the spiritual design of some of LA's most iconic modern buildings. Now that the logo was compromised, it would directly impact Olympus's fortunes. He asked Leo to think about it. What was Mount Olympus without Pegasus? Was it still the home of the gods? Leo now understood why Olympus Pictures was taking it so seriously. The rumors about the studio heads being superstitious were clearly true, but he was still a bit confused about why Julian was telling him all this. Was it just to give him the inside scoop? Julian continued, explaining that the original geomancer was long dead. They had tried to consult a revered spiritual master from the Serenity Bell Tower, but he had been in seclusion for years and couldn't be persuaded to come out, no matter how much money was offered. The studio head, Mr. Sterling, had an infant son who hadn't stopped crying since the logo disappeared. Nothing seemed to soothe him. A sense of dread washed over Leo. He asked if Julian was suggesting he go babysit for the studio head. Julian chuckled nervously. He told Leo not to put it that way. Since they couldn't get the master from the bell tower, Mr. Sterling had consulted several other experts. One of them suggested that until the logo issue was resolved, the only way to quiet the child was to have him sleep for a few nights with a godfather who had a particularly strong, grounding presence. Leo suddenly understood. Julian had just mentioned his long-standing relationship with Olympus. He asked if Julian was the designated godfather. Julian's reply was quick. He was the godfather, but Leo was the one with the grounding presence. Leo was taken aback by this logic. Julian stated with unshakable conviction that this was about their film. Leo was the second lead. Julian admitted he was scared of this kind of thing, but Leo was afraid of nothing. Someone had told him they suspected the Sterling family was being plagued by a coyote spirit, and that the logo had been stolen by one. He was a little spooked and would feel better with Leo by his side. He assured Leo that with the other masters there, it would be safe, and they wouldn't have to get involved in anything else. The mention of a coyote spirit made Leo's mind race. Another coyote, another theft. Could it be a clue? Despite his constant declarations that he wanted nothing to do with being a reaper, he had grown to consider Old Man Bill and the Vixen as friends. Seeing them so troubled by this affair, he felt compelled to help if he could. He could at least investigate if a coyote spirit was truly involved. On top of that, as Julian said, it was for the good of their film. So, while Julian was still rambling, Leo interrupted him. He agreed to go, but pointed out that he still had some time left before he wrapped filming. Julian immediately assured him that was no problem. He would talk to Mark and get him a few nights off. He told Leo to think of it as just sleeping in a different location. He urged Leo, for the sake of their film, to go to the big boss's house and sleep with him. Leo groaned, telling Julian not to ruin his reputation. He was gonna watch the baby sleep, that was all. After getting approval from Mark, Julian picked Leo up from the set. He drove to a famous gated community in the hills of Bel Air, navigating the winding roads with familiarity. The first impression Leo had of the house was that it was meticulously designed with spiritual principles in mind. He only had a cursory knowledge of the subject from industry gossip, but even he could tell every detail was intentional. The main entrance was flanked by a pair of stone griffins for protection and prosperity. The doorway itself had a specially consecrated threshold, and there were countless other design elements he couldn't name. Mr. Sterling wasn't in the living room. Instead, several groups of people were seated there. Some wore traditional robes, others academic tweed. Not having a top knot or a long beard seemed to make one stand out. These Leo guests were the masters Mr. Sterling had hired. It seemed they had all been contacted separately, and this was their first time meeting. They were currently sizing each other up, testing each other's credentials. Of course, in a city like LA, many of them already knew each other, or at least knew of each other, and there was a bit of polite schmoozing. From just a few overheard phrases, Leo gathered that there were practitioners of Santeria, modern druids, and spiritual consultants in the room. The North and South traditions were well represented, and many had brought assistants or apprentices, making for a lively scene. As they were talking, their attention turned to the swaggering, sunglass-wearing Julian and the handsome, coolly detached Leo beside him. They wondered what the deal was with these two newcomers who remained silent. The one in sunglasses had a multicolored string bracelet, a sign of an insider. Those who knew how to read faces felt the young man beside him had an unusually strong aura. Just then, Mr. Sterling and his wife came downstairs with their baby. Julian warmly took the child from them and immediately passed him to Leo. Leo smiled as he held the baby, his charming dimples appearing. The masters exchanged glances. They had been mistaken. The kid was just the nanny. Julian took off his sunglasses. One of the masters, a film buff, recognized him as a major director. Julian greeted the Sterlings, introducing Leo as the second lead from The Chase and his honorary little brother, whom he'd mentioned he was bringing to see his nephew. Julian's smooth patter almost made Leo choke. He was inventing family ties just to make things look good. Leo politely greeted Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, not playing along with the family charade. The Sterlings were considerably older than him. Mrs. Sterling smiled, remarking that his little brother was much more handsome than him. She held a position in the company and didn't act snobbish despite Leo's relative obscurity, likely because he was Julian's guest. Mr. Sterling glanced around the living room at the assembled masters and noted that someone seemed to be missing. Just then, a man emerged from the restroom, rubbing his stomach and apologizing for his upset stomach. He looked up and his eyes met Leo's. Leo was surprised. It was Shane. Shane was equally shocked and delighted to see him. Mr. Sterling raised an eyebrow, asking if they knew each other. Leo explained simply that he and Shane were neighbors and he hadn't expected to see him here. Shane, trying to look important, puffed out his chest and said it was a fortunate coincidence that Mr. Sterling had invited him. He had been so broke he was about to move back to his hometown in the Midwest. Then, in a twist of fate, Mr. Sterling heard he had dealt with a troublesome entity in their apartment building and invited him to consult. Even if he didn't solve the case, the appearance fee was several $1,000s. Shane had come eagerly, determined to show off his skills. Even among so many powerful practitioners, he was the only one who worked with insects, so he thought he might have a unique contribution to make. Of course, before that, he had enthusiastically sampled everything at the lunch buffet to the point of indigestion. What secretly pleased him most was seeing his neighbor here. He didn't know much about the film industry and had no idea Leo's film was funded by Olympus. He smirked. Leo had always been skeptical of his abilities, dismissing them as mass hysteria. Now he would have to believe him. Shane couldn't resist shooting a conspiratorial wink at Leo. Mr. Sterling dismissed it as a coincidence and turned to Leo with a serious expression. He told his brother to take the baby with Julian out to the courtyard to play, as he had business to attend to. Then he added a crucial reminder: never believe in ghosts or spirits. Leo was momentarily taken aback, then nodded in understanding. Mr. Sterling had heard from Julian that Leo was a staunch non-believer with a powerful, positive aura, which was why he thought he could calm the baby. He had been invited for that very reason. So, of course, he would encourage that skepticism. The other masters, all seasoned professionals, were unfazed by Mr. Sterling's contradictory statements. They maintained serene smiles, nodding occasionally as if to agree with everything he said. Shane barely managed to stifle a groan and slumped back into his seat, utterly deflated. While the meeting continued in the living room, Julian and Leo took the baby to the courtyard. A nanny brought them refreshments and helped care for the child, so they were mostly just keeping him company. Leo was prepared. He gently rubbed the baby's back in slow circles, and sure enough, the crying stopped. In truth, the Godfather's presence helped too. Despite his own fears, Julian had a life force that was quite formidable. It was just a shame he was so afraid of the very things he could counter. Through the glass door, Mrs. Sterling watched for a few moments, a look of relief on her face. Leo kept his head down, focused on the baby, but his ears were tuned to the conversation inside. The glass door wasn't fully closed, and he could faintly hear their discussion. One practitioner, a spiritual consultant, declared that his readings confirmed the troublesome coyote spirit was not in the house. This wasn't new information to Mr. Sterling. Someone had proposed that theory earlier in the afternoon. They had searched everywhere and found nothing. He asked if it was at the company headquarters. The consultant said no. They had checked all locations in recent days, and there were no major issues. The problem wasn't with the living spaces, but with the dead ones. He suspected an external entity, a ghost, a spirit, an otherworldly being, had invaded an ancestral resting place and was siphoning the family's luck. This was why the child was affected, his distress echoing the disturbance of his ancestors. Another practitioner, a druid, agreed. He noted that Mr. Sterling's home and office were so well protected by spiritual design that the only logical point of entry was an ancestral tomb. That was how the entity had found a vulnerability and stolen the Olympus Pegasus. The druid explained that in their tradition, both the homes of the living and the tombs of the dead were crucial. Ancient texts taught that the living draw their vitality from the energy of the earth and sky. When a person dies and is returned to the earth, they must be placed where they can receive the earth's life force, which in turn nourishes their remains and blesses their descendants. The tradition held that the location of an ancestor's grave could influence the fortunes of future generations. Mr. Sterling asked if it was his great-grandfather's grave. His family's business had its earliest beginnings with his great-grandfather. He grew anxious, saying that the grave was maintained annually and had its own spiritual protections. He offered to send someone to check on it immediately. A medium spoke up, saying it might not be the great-grandfather. She asked if the family had a cemetery plot map, and if she could see it. A plot map was a type of family record. It detailed the locations, spiritual alignments, and geographical features of a family's ancestral graves. More detailed versions even included diagrams. With modern customs, few families kept such records, but the Sterlings were traditionalists and had started their fortune long ago, so they had preserved theirs. Mr. Sterling nodded. His father had entrusted him with this matter, but such an important document was not kept at his house. It was at the old family estate. He immediately made a call to have a copy sent over. The Sterlings were very traditional. Because the plot map belonged to the entire family, it was a rare document to have survived through generations of changing burial customs. They had two versions, an old and a new one. The old one was over 100 years old, a hand-scribed scroll on cloth, detailing the burial plots for 9 generations. It specified the layout for each generation's interment. However, as the family's circumstances and the times had changed, the new map had been updated and altered by a renowned spiritual architect, and not all ancestors were buried in the same original location. Over time, the landscape and its spiritual energies had shifted. The masters present used the map to make their calculations or perform divinations. Shane, being the youngest and least known, had little say in the matter. After some debate among the geomancers and diviners, they couldn't reach a consensus. One faction believed the 5th-generation ancestor's grave was the source of the problem. The other insisted it was Mr. Sterling's great-grandfather's tomb that had been disturbed. Someone suggested they each send their own spiritual scouts to investigate both locations. Shane, eager to prove himself, chimed in. He said that with the map and specific locations, he could send his spirit insects to take a look. A Santeria priest immediately shot him down, saying there was no need. He would ask his Orishes to investigate. If this was an external spirit causing trouble, his house was perfectly equipped to handle it. The priest, a Mr. Martinez, had his assistant begin to chant and drum. The rhythmic beat filled the room as he called upon his patrons, summoning spirits of the crossroads, the forest, and the river. Unlike some practitioners who went into a full trance, Mr. Martinez was a seated priest, so he only chanted without dancing. After a long invocation, he sent his spiritual emissaries out. He sat in silence for about 20 minutes before speaking again, his voice sharp and high-pitched. He told Mr. Sterling that a recent storm had washed away the protective wards on his great-grandfather's grave, allowing an external spirit to enter. It had stolen the family's little Pegasus. This was no ordinary intrusion, he declared. It was a vengeful entity from the family's past. He had tried to negotiate with the spirit at the gravesite, but it was stubborn. He hissed as if in pain. The negotiations had failed. They would need to go to the site with a full spiritual retinue to continue the talks. Mr. Sterling paled. It sounded less like a negotiation and more like a battle. But he understood the message. His great-grandfather's grave was the problem, and they needed to go there in person. He asked if the external spirit was indeed a coyote. Other masters had previously suggested a coyote was to blame, but they had been searching his house and office to no avail. Mr. Martinez said it was hard to be certain. The entity's behavior was similar to that of a coyote spirit. He had initially wondered if it was connected to the recent theft of the founder's keys. Many in their line of work knew about that incident, and even if he wasn't directly involved, he had heard about it from his own spiritual guides. He shared Leo's suspicion. Could the troublemaker be the same one who stole the Reaper's badge and the Founder's keys? As he spoke, Mr. Martinez opened his hand, revealing an object. He explained that during his spiritual negotiation, the entity had dropped something. Whatever kind of spirit it was, it clearly had powerful connections. And this object made it unlikely to be the thief the entire city was looking for. His hand, which had been empty moments before, now held a small metal tag. On it were etched the words, Department of Transitions, Standard Procedure Unit 001. Everyone stared in astonishment. Unit 001 they could understand. But Standard Procedure? Mr. Sterling knew of the Department of Transitions. He mused that the spirit had friends in low places. Shane, who had been silent for a while, finally had a chance to speak up. He explained that it was a Reaper's call sign. He had once encountered a Reaper during a seance who had Standard Procedure written on his badge, so he respectfully called him Mr. Standard. He was from the Department of Transitions. This tag must be his. Mr. Martinez looked confused. He asked what the unit part meant, thinking it sounded like something from the military. Shane shrugged, admitting he didn't know what Unit 001 was for. He also wondered how this coyote spirit had gotten a Reaper's tag. Mr. Standard was known for his integrity. The spirit couldn't have stolen it. Most of the others, however, suspected the Reaper was the coyote's protector. Only Shane insisted on his righteousness. Someone declared that they should just bring plenty of money. Money makes the spiritual world go round. This sentiment was met with universal agreement. Everyone who worked with the other side knew that when dealing with entities from below, offerings of spirit money and incense were essential. However, most of them stated they would not be going to the cemetery together. They had their own protocols and professional boundaries. Discussing it in a group was one thing, but conducting a ritual together was another. If they were going, they would go alone. Shane, however, had no such qualms. He was curious to see who would dare steal something from Mr. Standard. Leo had been listening secretly the whole time. Just then, the baby needed to be fed, and the nanny took him away. Leo and Julian were shown to an upstairs guest room to rest. As they passed through the living room, Leo saw one of the masters holding up a familiar-looking piece of paper. It was one of Leo's own creations. He recognized it instantly, and his eyes widened. As the person who had made it, he had a broader perspective than the others. His first thought was of his little paper donkey and Samuel. Could Samuel have been targeted by the coyote as retaliation? And the donkey Unit 001, was its tag missing? Had it fallen in battle? Leo had only intended to gather information, but now it seemed he would have to investigate personally. With this thought, Leo quickly went upstairs. He secretly burned a message for Old Man Bill. He and Julian were sharing a suite for the night. The baby, who slept for long stretches, was now asleep in his crib after his feeding, a baby monitor placed nearby. Julian was a night owl and still wide awake, planning to play video games in the sweet study. Leo told him he was tired and was going to sleep. Julian gave a distracted reply. He was used to exhausted actors. Leo lay down and pulled the covers over himself. His spirit immediately left his body. For extra security, he cast a quick sleeping spell on Julian, watching as he slumped over the desk in a deep slumber. Only then did he leave the room. When Leo descended, the masters were just leaving. He had overheard their destination and, taking a shortcut through the spirit paths, he floated toward the cemetery, knowing he would arrive much faster than them. Mr. Sterling's great-grandfather was buried in a historic cemetery. As a renowned artist, his grave was often visited by admirers and students, so it had never been moved. Leo didn't know the exact location, and the cemetery was surprisingly large. Surrounded by endless rows of tombstones, he was starting to feel lost. Old Man Bill, probably busy, hadn't arrived yet. Leo tried calling out, "Samuel?" After a few calls, he heard a faint reply, "Leo." It was Samuel's voice. Leo floated in the direction of the sound and found Samuel's spirit standing under a pine tree. He breathed a sigh of relief. He knew Samuel had protective artifacts, but he was still glad to see him unharmed. Samuel was surprised to see him and asked if he was there on official business. Leo hesitated, admitting that he sort of was. He had really come because of Samuel but didn't know how to explain it. As he was thinking, he heard a faint clinking sound. He turned to see the little paper donkey limping toward him. Leo reached out, delighted. He was relieved to see the donkey was okay, telling it he was afraid it had been turned into glue. The little donkey came over and rested its head in Leo's hand. Behind him, Samuel urgently said, "Don't." But it was too late. The moment Leo touched the furry paper donkey, it transformed in his hand into a gleaming white human skull, slick with an indescribable viscous fluid. Holding the skull, Leo's spirit went cold. Most of his ghostly encounters involved him acting a part. Seeing Samuel safe had made him lower his guard. The sudden, visceral shock was like the time with the spirit insects. The sheer horror of it made his spirit tremble, and he flung the skull away with a cry. The front of his spectral form flickered, his normally calm eyes wide with terror. Samuel watched the skull arc through the air and land with a soft thud. He thought to himself that Leo was supposed to be a fearsome reaper from the Department of Transitions. How much did he really not know about him? The two stared at each other. Samuel asked hesitantly if he was scared. Leo immediately denied it, insisting he wasn't scared at all. He was a reaper after all, but his heart was pounding. He thought, could he be this adorable? A reaper who gets scared. Leo had been dead for over 2 centuries, and he could still be startled. Samuel found it more than just adorable. He seemed more alive than any living person he knew. The world was a bustling place of humans and ghosts, but among them all, Samuel had never met anyone quite like Leo. Samuel didn't press the issue. He simply explained that it was an illusion created by the coyote spirit. Unit 001 was safe with him. Leo felt a wave of relief, followed by a surge of whiplash. He had first thought the donkey was fine, then was sure it was destroyed, and now it was fine again. It was an emotional roller coaster. Samuel took an object from his coat. It was a single golden lotus bead from his prayer bracelet. Tucked beneath it was the small paper donkey, one of its hind legs slightly torn. He explained that he had been at the cemetery during the day to pay respects and must have been targeted by the coyote then. After nightfall, it had brought him here. Couldn't harm him directly, so it tried to steal Unit 001. He had put it away and used a piece of his prayer beads to protect it. The coyote was still lurking, and the skull illusion was probably meant to frighten him. He warned Leo to be careful. The skull was the seat of spiritual power, and shape-shifting spirits like coyotes and foxes often used them to amplify their powers of illusion. A human skull was the most effective. In a place full of graves, finding one wouldn't be difficult. Leo barely heard the explanation. He was no longer worried about Unit 001. He pointed at the bead, asking if it was a piece of his prayer bracelet. He wondered if the bracelet would still work if a piece was missing. Samuel explained that he had removed it to protect the little donkey. He himself was protected by the full set of beads and his own mental fortitude, but Unit 001 was just made of paper, and the coyote had noticed how much he valued it. Samuel said calmly that it would be fine as long as he didn't let it out of his sight for long. Leo urged him to put the bead back on the bracelet immediately, saying it was just a paper donkey and not worth the risk. He took the paper animal himself. As soon as it was in his hands, it grew to its normal size and shook its head, coming back to life. Samuel thought to himself that it was the first thing Leo had ever given him. Leo stroked the donkey's head thoughtfully. He had called it just a paper donkey, but after spending so much time with it, the little creature had become special. He remembered how it had comically bucked and bounced with Samuel on its back. The little donkey nudged its head against Leo's waist plaintively. Leo told it not to do that again, that he could always fold a new one, a Unit 002. He patted its head, telling it not to be afraid. Only then did Leo have the presence of mind to think back. So it really was a coyote, that miserable creature. Leo stroked the donkey's neck. That coyote was as good as dead. It had stolen a reaper's badge, the founder's keys, and now it dared to bully his donkey. Just then, Leo heard a blood-curdling cry. He looked up and saw a tall, powerful horse charging down the hill from the top of the cemetery. In the moonlight, a skeleton in full armor sat astride the horse. 2 points of red, cold fire burned in its black eye sockets. It held a massive sword. The skeletal rider opened its jaw, which made a grating, clattering sound, and let out a roar that seemed to echo from the depths of hell. It galloped forward, looking like it was about to trample Leo into the ground. The sheer menace of it was overwhelming. Leo instinctively took a few steps back. He only stopped when he saw that Samuel hadn't moved. He braced himself, thinking that he was the one who usually rode beasts of burden to reap others. He wondered where a skeletal rider had come from. Once he calmed down, a thought occurred to him. He quickly burned the fox fang the vixen had given him. Sharp claws grew from his left hand. When he looked again, there was no skeletal rider on the hill. Instead, there was an orange-yellow coyote riding on the back of a huge, dusty jackrabbit. The coyote had beady, shining eyes and a piece of watermelon rind perched on its head like a helmet. Its 2 semicircular ears poked through the rind. It brandished a stick. Its eyes glowed with an eerie red light, and its long, bushy tail twitched. This posture was almost human. The coyote hadn't realized its illusion had been broken. It yanked the rabbit's ears, trying to look intimidating as it stood up and waved its stick, letting out a squeak that sounded like a prairie dog screaming. Without its special effects, the coyote looked utterly ridiculous. Leo charged forward. The coyote paused, confused, then squeaked again. If it had been any other creature, Leo might have hesitated. But it was a coyote. Empowered by the vixen's magic, he felt like he could dominate any of the critter cabal within a 100-mile radius. He lunged forward and swiped the coyote off the jackrabbit's back, grabbing it by the scruff of its neck. The coyote was a good 2 feet long with a sleek, healthy coat. Leo slammed it to the ground, driving its head into the dirt, muffling its scream. The jackrabbit, which had been forced to be the coyote's steed, was momentarily stunned by its sudden freedom. Then it hopped away as fast as it could. A muffled voice came from the dirt. "Mercy, sir. Mercy." Leo chuckled. He pulled the coyote's head out of the ground. He asked it why it was begging for mercy now when it had been trying to scare him just a moment ago. He pointed to his reaper's badge, asking if it couldn't see how important he was. How dare it provoke the Department of Transitions? The coyote said in a terrified voice that it hadn't realized he was a real reaper. It had seen the standard procedure on his badge and thought he was some kind of actor. It claimed it had never seen a badge like that in all its years. Leo told it to stop playing dumb. He knew its type, a bully who preys on the weak. He added silently that he had dealt with the Vixen's family before and knew all about the Critter Cabal's tricks. He demanded to know if it was the one who stole the Reaper's badge and the Founder's keys. The coyote cried out that it was being framed. It had been here the whole time. It had an alibi for the day of the badge theft, and during the theft of the Founder's keys it was at a mandatory summit in the hills. Told Leo that if he knew the Vixen, he could just ask her. Samuel spoke up, saying it was probably not the same one. He had encountered the other coyote spirit before, and while he couldn't see its face or smell it, the feeling it gave off was completely different. His intuition told him this wasn't the one. Leo accepted this. There were many coyote spirits. It was unlikely he'd be lucky enough to catch the right one on the first try. He told the coyote he understood why it had surrendered so quickly. It had recognized his connection to the Vixen. He demanded it swear an oath that it wasn't the thief. The coyote whimpered that an oath was a sacred bond with the universe. It swore that if it had stolen the items, it would turn into a toad. Leo sneered, asking if that was a real oath. He wondered if it was actually guilty. The coyote shook its head frantically. It swore that if it had stolen the Founder's keys, it would be fried in boiling oil for 100 years. Leo said that was more like it. The coyote sighed in relief and asked obsequiously if it could go now. Leo smiled at it, then punched it again. He asked where it thought it was going. It had bullied Samuel and his donkey. Hadn't it seen the Department of Transitions tag on its neck? The little donkey snorted and stomped on the coyote's head with its hoof. The coyote had the tag in its possession and was still playing dumb. The coyote's face was now swollen. It whined dramatically that it had thought the tag was a fake too. It claimed it knew its mistake now and that Samuel was under Leo's protection. It pleaded for mercy, saying it had a wife and kids, and begged him to be magnanimous. It swore it would never do it again, or it would be fried in oil for 200 years. It begged him not to tell the Vixen, who would surely not spare it. Leo let Unit 001 get its revenge, then said he would let the matter rest for now. He still needed to send another message to Old Man Bill, who hadn't shown up yet, to tell him not to make a wasted trip. The coyote was a battered mess and was just starting to relax when Leo's questioning continued. He demanded to know if the coyote was the one squatting in the Sterling family's ancestral grave. The coyote was stunned. Thought they were done. It had heard that its kind were known for their quick retreats, but this Reaper who had changed the subject 3 times in a minute was just as agile. It had thought he was here for the donkey, then he asked about the Founder's keys, and now he was talking about the Sterling family. The coyote couldn't help but ask whose side the Reaper was on. Leo retorted, asking if he couldn't be on 3 sides at once. Seeing the coyote speechless, Leo explained that a practitioner he knew had taken the family's case, and it just so happened that the coyote had also bullied his donkey. He casually threw Shane under the bus. Samuel made a connection. He asked if it was the Sterling family from Olympus Pictures. Leo confirmed it, then realized, of course, the Sterlings had tried to hire the master from the Serenity Bell Tower. Samuel nodded. His father had some dealings with their family and he had heard about the incident. Mr. Sterling had even tried to go through his family to invite the master, but had been unsuccessful. Hearing this, Leo's mind wandered slightly. So Samuel had a connection to the Sterling family in the real world. He knew almost nothing about Samuel's mortal life. Their conversations were always about ghosts and spirits. Leo had assumed that Samuel was so knowledgeable about the supernatural simply because he had spent so much time around it. For the first time, Leo felt a flicker of curiosity about what Samuel was like as a living person. The coyote's shrill voice snapped Leo back to reality. It admitted to occupying the grave, but insisted it was there for righteous revenge. It explained that 100 years ago, the Sterling patriarch was just a boy when he encountered the coyote in the mountains back home. The coyote was undergoing a spiritual trial and asked the boy for a naming plea. This was a common practice for its kind, a way to ascend. They would find a human, the most spiritual of all creatures, and ask, "What do I look like to you?" If 3 different people answered that it looked human, it could shed its animal form. But if someone said it didn't, all its efforts would be for naught. This particular legend was so widespread that even Leo had heard of it and understood the basics. The coyote continued its sad tale. It had already gotten 2 positive answers, and this was the last one. It had asked the boy, "Don't I look like a god to you?" The boy, a child from the rural south, had looked at the coyote in its tattered clothes with a watermelon rind on its head and replied, "You look like a half-wit." The coyote had returned home in tears, its spiritual progress ruined. From that day on, all the other spirits in the area started calling it Gus. The nickname stuck. Eventually, everyone forgot its real name. It had become its identity, a curse of belief. If enough people started calling Leo by a nickname, it could even end up in the Department of Transition's official records. Leo was speechless. He asked why it hadn't just asked if it looked like a person. Gus said sheepishly that it was trying to take a shortcut. If the boy had said it looked like a god, it would have been set for life. True spiritual masters earned their titles through good deeds and diligent practice. This coyote had tried to cheat the system and ended up being branded a fool. Leo shook his head, remarking on its greed. An adult might have been afraid of spiritual retribution and played along, but a child would be brutally honest. Gus took off its watermelon rind and wiped its non-existent tears. It wailed that its life's work had been destroyed. After 100 years of cultivating its power again, it had finally come for revenge, only to find the man had died long ago and become a celebrated artist. His grave was constantly visited and maintained, radiating a protective aura that kept the coyote at bay. It had waited for years for a chance to desecrate the tomb and bring misfortune upon his descendants. The coyote and fox clans were known for their volatile nature. Even families who kept them as protectors were wary. They were unpredictable, and any slight could result in severe punishment. Gus genuinely believed the Sterling family owed it for ruining its destiny, a grudge it had held for a century. Leo's film was also being affected by this, so he punched Gus again, calling it petty and saying that was why it would never become a true spirit. Gus was flattened, its will to fight gone. It declared that reconciliation was impossible and it would make the family suffer for 8 generations. Then it glanced at Leo's face and its tone immediately changed. But if they showed enough sincerity, it might consider becoming their family's protector. It would ensure they had prosperity for 8 generations. This was the Coyote clan's infamous adaptability. In folklore, many family protectors hadn't been invited willingly. Some were spirits that had been wronged or harmed and had come for revenge. If a skilled mediator could be found to negotiate them into submission, the feud could be transformed into a relationship of patronage. The debt would be repaid with offerings, a mutually beneficial arrangement. Leo pointed out that the family was already prosperous and might not even want its help. He said he wouldn't get involved, but he would take it to the Sterlings to discuss the matter. He asked where its family was. He remembered that the Santeria priest and Shane had also come to the cemetery. He had to go with them. Whatever the outcome, this damn coyote needed to return the logo so his movie could be released. Mr. Sterling and his entourage arrived at the cemetery a short time later. Since their adversary was likely a coyote spirit, the Santeria priest, Mr. Martinez, was the most knowledgeable. He had brought 2 rotisserie chickens as an offering. Coyote and fox spirits were known to love chicken. If the negotiations were successful, the chicken would be used to reward his own spirits and appease the opposing one. Mr. Sterling had promised his father he wouldn't come, and his wife had tried to dissuade him, but since it concerned his great-grandfather's grave, he had felt compelled to attend. He had cleared their visit with the cemetery management, so they entered without issue and went straight to his great-grandfather's tomb. Even from a distance, Mr. Sterling gasped. Although it was a public cemetery, this was a high-end section with excellent spiritual geography, designed as a series of gardens within a garden. Each large burial area contained smaller, self-contained plots. His family's plot was spacious with its own landscaping. But now, one of the 2 cypress trees planted on either side of the tomb had fallen, and the stone structure above the grave had collapsed, crushing the tomb itself. Mr. Sterling was furious at the cemetery's negligence. If Mr. Martinez hadn't investigated, he would never have known. As they got closer, a strong, foul odor hit them. Mr. Sterling, recalling the talk of a coyote spirit, had no doubt now. It was the unmistakable scent of a coyote. He covered his nose and asked Mr. Martinez what to do. The priest declared that the creature had already desecrated the ancestor's tomb and instructed his assistant to light 3 sticks of incense on the grave. The incense represented the 3 realms: heaven, earth, and humanity. He lit them to communicate with the entity within. As soon as the assistant lit the incense, the tips glowed without flame, and black smoke billowed out. The ash that formed was also black. Their hearts sank. Shane, though a novice in their traditions, felt the insects he carried stir restlessly, of danger. He tensed, his hand on the pouch at his chest. Just then, the 3 incense sticks fell over. A bad omen. The next second, Mr. Sterling suddenly spoke, his voice unnaturally high-pitched and feminine, suggesting they put the rotisserie chickens on the grave before they got cold. Shane cursed under his breath. Mr. Sterling's normally steady voice was now thin and strained. He reached for the chickens. They were Mr. Martinez's special recipe, slow-cooked with a blend of 8 spices, the skin a tempting golden brown. Mr. Martinez's face hardened. He and his assistant grabbed Mr. Sterling, but he was possessed of enormous strength and threw them both off. Furious, Mr. Martinez invoked his own spiritual patrons, chanting to bind the spirit possessing his client. His assistant threw a ritual drum at Mr. Sterling, who froze, allowing them to drag him onto the tomb and sit him backwards, ready to exorcise the spirit. But Mr. Martinez paused again. He said in his high-pitched voice that the spirit was female, part of the same family as the one he had negotiated with earlier. It seemed they were dealing with a mated pair. Shane urged him to just get the spirit out of Mr. Sterling. Mr. Martinez sighed heavily, saying it might not be possible. Before Shane could ask why, the priest and his assistant let go and Mr. Sterling fell backwards off the tomb, landing on Shane and wrapping his hands around his neck in a bizarrely contorted grip. Caught off guard, Shane was instantly choked. He clawed at Mr. Sterling's hands, trying to summon his golden scarab beetle. But for some reason, the pouch on his chest was inert. His vision blurred as the air left his lungs. He bit his tongue hard, the pain and the taste of blood jolting him as he mentally recited a charm. A loud buzzing filled his ears, and his mind cleared with a jolt. He looked around. He was still standing in the same spot. Mr. Sterling wasn't choking him. His own hands were clamped around his neck. In front of him, a small coyote was crouched, its paws clasped at its chest, staring up at him with eerily glowing red eyes. When it saw he had broken free of the illusion, it scampered behind a larger coyote. There were 3 of them in total, 2 small and 1 large. The other small coyote was focused on Mr. Sterling, who was trapped in his own hallucination, tearing off his clothes and banging his head on the tombstone until it was bloody. The large coyote had entranced Mr. Martinez and his assistants, who were now fighting each other. The coyote's power of illusion was formidable. It was only because Shane worked with his own spirits and Mr. Martinez was a priest that they hadn't been completely overcome. Shane yelled their names, trying to snap them out of it. The small coyote tried to attack him again, but this time Shane was prepared. His spirit insects protected him, keeping his mind clear. He thought to himself that he had to fight for his fee. Just as he was about to charge, a red lantern drifted into view, followed by a familiar tall-hatted figure. Beside him was a ghost in a dark robe, leading a limping donkey. Shane was overjoyed. He knew that seeing a reaper was usually a bad sign, but seeing Mr. Standard without even performing a seance meant he was in deep trouble. He called out to him. When the reaper got closer, Shane saw that he was holding a paper leash, and at the end of it was another coyote. Shane was ecstatic. He knew Mr. Standard was a righteous enforcer. He looked at the robed figure beside him, puzzled. He wasn't bound, so he didn't seem like a captive soul. But things were too urgent to worry about that. He pleaded with Mr. Standard to save his client. Leo replied calmly, telling him to wait. He glanced at Guffaw Gus, who then spoke to his wife and pups. The eerie glow in their eyes faded, and they dropped their illusions, scurrying over to huddle beside him. Guffaw Gus's wife was about 2/3 his size, and the pups were even smaller. Mr. Sterling and the others snapped out of their trances. Mr. Sterling touched his bruised and bloody forehead, wincing as he got to his feet. He saw Shane standing near 4 coyotes, one of which was wearing a watermelon rind like a person, its eyes glowing in the dark. The sight terrified him, and he scrambled behind Mr. Martinez. Shane, filled with pride, announced that the Reaper was here and that he had the coyote on a leash. If Mr. Sterling was his patron in the mortal world, Mr. Standard was his patron in the spiritual one. Mr. Martinez and his assistant saw Leo's official badge and, though they were taken aback by its strange inscription, they dared not be disrespectful. They greeted him as Mr. Standard, the spirit speaking through Mr. Martinez also thanked the Reaper from the Department of Transitions for his timely assistance. Leo nodded. He said he was just doing his civic duty and had brought the coyote to them for a proper negotiation. But it was obvious to everyone that he was treating the coyote roughly. Mr. Sterling, however, couldn't see anything and just looked around in confusion. Shane, after a moment's thought, realized that Mr. Sterling was wearing a protective amulet that shielded him from seeing spirits. He explained that this was the Reaper he had told him about, and he trailed off looking at Samuel, unsure how to introduce him. He asked Leo who the other figure was. Leo joked, asking what he thought someone in a dark robe would be. Shane's lips moved. He wondered if it was his partner. He quickly corrected himself, asking if it was his colleague, the Black Reaper. But the uniform was wrong. Leo felt a strange sense of embarrassment at Shane's wild guess but maintained his composure. He said he was plainclothes. His badge, if he were wearing it, would say everyone's gone. Shane's first reaction was that he had to be kidding, but then he looked at Leo's own badge and fell silent. The spirit world was full of strange things. Standard procedure and everyone's gone did have a certain symmetry. Mr. Sterling was still lost. Mr. Martinez explained that the Reaper had a colleague with him and had apprehended the coyote, so they could now negotiate properly. He and his assistant exchanged a look. This was no ordinary Reaper. Spirit officials were known to be greedy, so they approached Leo respectfully. Mr. Martinez said that he was sorry to have troubled him and that he didn't have much to offer. Leo's gaze immediately shifted to the two rotisserie chickens. The smell was divine. Mr. Martinez, however, produced a cloth bag. He said he had brought a bag of spirit money and hoped it would be an acceptable offering. What kind of offering was that? Leo looked away into the distance and said he wasn't interested in spirit money. This had to be a fake Reaper. Who had ever heard of one who wasn't interested in money? Did he not respect tradition? The spirit speaking through Mr. Martinez was particularly offended, thinking the Reaper was being arrogant. Mr. Sterling was still confused. The spirit in Mr. Martinez lamented that the Reaper wasn't interested in money. Leo thought to himself that this must be what it felt like to act cool in front of the big shots. Mr. Martinez had never encountered such a pretentious spirit official. He didn't know what to do. If not money, then what? Incense? It was Shane who seemed to understand. He remembered that when he had made offerings to Mr. Standard before, money and incense hadn't been very effective. This was a ghostly gourmand. He quickly said that money and incense were secondary. Mr. Standard appreciated fine cuisine. He pointed to the rotisserie chickens Mr. Martinez had brought. Mr. Martinez understood. This was unusual, but he quickly unwrapped one of the chickens and presented it. It was no longer hot, but its golden brown skin glistened with juices, and it still looked delicious. He was confident in his family recipe. He explained that his family's rotisserie chicken was tender and juicy, even the breast meat, and that before he became a priest, his family had made a living selling it. He invited the Reaper to appreciate it. Leo's eyes lit up. He immediately invited Samuel to join him. Samuel declined, saying he wasn't hungry. His mood was still excellent for reasons he kept to himself. He was being truthful, but Shane and Mr. Martinez interpreted it differently. Shane, wearing his rose-colored glasses, saw it as a sign of deep camaraderie between the two Reapers. Mr. Martinez, on the other hand, thought that no spirit official dislikes money, and none would be so polite as to refuse an offering. He must be afraid to compete with his colleague. Although the Reaper hadn't done much besides act aloof, the fact that the Coyote family was now sitting so quietly was proof of his power. His own spirits hadn't been able to win the fight or negotiation. Even though the Reaper was acting high and mighty, Mr. Martinez still took out the spirit money and prepared to burn it for both of them. Mr. Sterling joined in. Though he couldn't see Leo, he knew the others were facing a certain direction, so he addressed the empty space as well. He apologized for the short notice, saying he only had these plain paper notes, but he would burn more elaborate spirit currency for him next time. He knew he had to show respect to the Reaper who had saved them. Mr. Martinez advised against it. He explained that the fancy printed currency wasn't actually legal tender on the other side. Plain paper like this was better, especially if it was for an ancestor and hand-cut by a filial descendant. That was considered top quality. Mr. Sterling, who always had his offerings prepared by staff, was surprised by this rule. He promised to remember it. Leo, with a grand gesture, waved his hand and declared that since he didn't want it, they should scatter it for the other lost souls in the cemetery. The ash from the burning paper drifted away on the wind. Mr. Martinez was stunned. The Reaper wasn't just posturing, he was genuinely generous. He wondered if the Department of Transitions was cracking down on corruption. Leo sat down to enjoy the chicken. He only had to lift his spectral face covering slightly to inhale the rich aroma. The scent of the chicken filled the air. Guffaw Gus and his family stared at it with longing. The spirit in Mr. Martinez realized he was drooling and quickly wiped his chin. That chicken was supposed to be for them. Guffaw Gus's daughter took a few hesitant steps forward, her nose twitching, and looked at the chicken with pitiful eyes. She held her chubby paws at her chest, her tail wagging slowly, her beady eyes full of hope. Guffaw Gus swallowed hard and said wistfully that back in the old days in the country, life was better. He had all the chicken he could eat. Now, with all the fences and electric lights, his children would never know that pleasure. He took off his watermelon rind and wiped his face with it again. Mr. Sterling shivered at the sound of the coyote speaking, but seeing everyone else's calm expressions, he managed to control his fear. To be honest, the little coyote pups were quite cute. Even he was a little moved. Leo glanced at the chicken, then at the pups. He seemed moved as well. He asked if the little one had never had chicken before. Guffaw Gus's daughter nodded, her big eyes sad as she patted her fluffy belly. Leo sighed. He said that was too bad, and that he would eat faster so she wouldn't have to watch and be sad. The little coyote turned and buried her face in her father's fur. Mr. Martinez thought to himself that Reapers truly had no humanity. Leo remarked on how delicious the chicken was, then looked at the others and asked if they were going to negotiate or just stare at him. Only then did Guffaw Gus and Mr. Martinez snap out of it, abandoning any hope that he might share. Mr. Martinez consulted with Mr. Sterling. According to their tradition, since there was a long-standing feud between the family and the coyote, the best solution was to adopt it as a family protector, resolving the century-old grudge. If Mr. Sterling was unwilling, they would have to find another way to appease it. Mr. Sterling was already wealthy, but he considered the coyotes' formidable power. Although they were known to be fickle, after some thought, he asked quietly if it would be his personal protector or the whole family's. Mr. Martinez was surprised by the question. He explained that if the family hadn't been formally divided, it would have to be the protector of the entire Sterling clan. But if he was the one who made the offerings, it would naturally favor him and would follow him if he ever branched off. Mr. Sterling nodded. He told Mr. Martinez to negotiate the terms. He was willing to reconcile and welcome it as a family protector. Mr. Martinez turned to Guffaw Gus. He addressed it by its full title, the 200-year-old coyote spirit from the canyons, known as Guffaw Gus. He stated that it was here to settle a grudge. This was information his own spirits had gathered. Guffaw Gus nodded in agreement. Mr. Martinez was relieved. Its willingness to answer meant it was also open to becoming a protector. He then asked if it would accept him as its master and take up residence in the Sterling household. He explained that from now on it would receive offerings through the priest, and the priest would gain prestige through it. This was the custom. The protector spirit had to join a spiritual lineage. Usually, the spirit that subdued it would become its master, guiding its spiritual development. In return, the client would also recognize the priest as their spiritual guide. But Guffaw Gus shook its head, a look of contempt on its face. It said that since Mr. Martinez hadn't defeated it, There was no way it would accept him as a master. Mr. Martinez was embarrassed but couldn't argue. The negotiation had indeed been unorthodox. He had relied on an external party to subdue the spirit. He asked what it wanted then. Guffaw Gus grinned slyly. If it had to choose a master, it would be the Great Reaper. Mr. Martinez was speechless. A family protector taking a Reaper as a master was unheard of. It defied all logic. But Guffaw Gus was one step ahead. It said that their factions and politics were pointless. The Sterling family was already rich. They didn't need Mr. Martinez's help. Although its words were crude, there was a certain truth to them, and Mr. Martinez fell silent. Leo, still eating the chicken Mr. Martinez had made, spoke up. He told the coyote to stop making excuses and trying to latch onto him. He said it should accept Mr. Martinez as its master, who was far more virtuous than it. Guffaw Gus exclaimed that anyone was more virtuous than it. What a shameless coyote. For a moment, Mr. Martinez thought that maybe letting it choose the Reaper was the right call. Only the utterly inhuman Reaper could control the utterly shameless coyote. Guffaw Gus's eyes darted around. It quickly changed its tune, saying that since the Great Reaper had recommended him, it would of course agree. It was settled. Mr. Martinez was relieved that it was finally resolved, thanks to the Reaper. He told Mr. Sterling he could prepare an altar at his home for Guffaw Gus at an appropriate time. They could discuss the specific rituals later. For now, they needed to deal with the logo and the desecrated grave. Welcoming a new protector spirit involved many steps, including preparing a shrine and writing a formal petition, which couldn't be done on the spot. Guffaw Gus dutifully rummaged under its tail and pulled out a small, dragon-shaped piece of paper. Mr. Sterling gasped. It was a piece of the original design for the logo, which was supposed to be in a bank vault. He hadn't even thought to check it. To think it had been in the coyote's possession all this time. Did that mean the original was destroyed? But if Guffaw Gus was returning it, perhaps it could be restored. A sliver of hope grew in him. Guffaw Gus blew on the paper dragon and chanted, "Go!" The paper dissolved into a puff of ash. Mr. Sterling stood frozen for a moment, then quickly pulled out his phone and checked the company website. A wave of joy washed over him. The Pegasus was back. The logo was restored. The problem that had stumped cybersecurity experts was solved. A huge weight was lifted from his shoulders. With the patriarch's grave already desecrated, even though Guffaw Gus had been subdued, Mr. Martinez recommended they open the tomb immediately, collect the bones, and rebury them on an auspicious day. But he admitted he wasn't an expert in reinterment and might need to consult an undertaker. He asked Shane if he knew the procedure. Shane shook his head. They had a basic idea, but in LA, the paranormal professions were highly specialized, and this was outside Mr. Martinez's field. Leo, having eaten their chicken, wanted to get the matter over with. He said he knew how to do it, and if they were going to collect the bones now, he would guide them. He had helped his grandfather with an old family grave once. In those days, with natural burials, the coffins would decay, and they had to sift through the dirt to find the bones. He knew the old ways. Guffaw Gus said obsequiously that having been dead himself, the Reaper was clearly an expert. If he ever needed it, they would be honored to collect his bones to show their filial piety. Leo retorted that it wasn't a job for them. It had to be done by a direct descendant. Mr. Sterling, realizing time was short as the bone collection had to be done at night, immediately called his father to report that the logo was restored. He then explained the need to collect the bones and, after getting approval, arranged for a new coffin to be delivered. along with a change of clothes for himself. Mr. Sterling's father and his other children rushed to the cemetery. Although he had put his eldest son in charge, he couldn't be absent for something as important as a reinterment. They all had their own opinions about how Mr. Sterling had handled it, but as long as their father was satisfied, that was all that mattered. The elder Sterling had already confirmed the logo was back. On the way, Mr. Sterling's younger brother muttered about how quickly it had been resolved. His father shot him a cold look, asking if he was disappointed. He reminded him that this concerned their grandfather's grave and the family's fortune, and his brother was still focused on his petty rivalry. The brother quickly backtracked, saying he was just wondering which master had been so skilled. With the master from the bell tower unavailable, he had been worried. The elder Sterling was silent. He, too, was curious about who had solved the problem, as his eldest son had managed it all on his own. When they arrived at the cemetery, a team was already there with a new coffin and other supplies. Perched on top of the coffin were 2 large and 2 small coyotes. "Brother, are these?" The younger brother began. Mr. Sterling cut him off sternly, telling him to watch his words. He introduced them as their new family protector, Gus. Normally, a coyote on a grave would be a terrible omen, but now, Gus was guarding their ancestors' coffin. Despite their past grievances, once subdued and accepted as a protector, it would fulfill its duty. The elder Sterling knew the customs. Although the name Gus sounded strange, he shot a glance at his younger son and then led the family in offering incense to the coyote. Gus sat regally, its red glowing eyes surveying the family, making them uneasy. The gaze of a coyote was truly unsettling. Fortunately, nothing happened. Mr. Sterling then introduced Shane and Mr. Martinez as the ones who had resolved the issue. He introduced Shane first, out of respect for his connection to the Reaper. He explained that a coyote with a grudge against their great-grandfather had invaded the tomb and disrupted the family's spiritual balance. Now, the coyote family had agreed to accept his offerings and had returned the Pegasus. His siblings exchanged glances, well aware of their brother's intentions. They had all heard of family protectors. Rural families might only ask for enough to eat, but this one was clearly powerful, having caused a nationwide incident. Their brother had turned a disaster into a personal victory. Shane was ecstatic but managed to maintain a composed, expert demeanor. He nodded humbly, not forgetting to CR the Reaper. He said he was humbled, and that it was all thanks to Mr. Standard's blessing. Mr. Sterling nodded emphatically. He added that it was an honor that Mr. Standard was willing to guide the ritual. His siblings whispered among themselves, wondering who this Mr. Standard was. Was he a local deity or a spirit the family worshipped? Mr. Sterling gestured to the empty space to Shane's left and respectfully introduced the invisible figure as Mr. Standard and his colleague, Reapers of the Dead. He couldn't see Leo, but he based the location on where Shane had been speaking. Everyone was stunned. Even the elder Sterling's eyes widened. A Reaper might not be the most famous type of spirit, but their direct connection to death inspired a deep sense of awe. The family all turned to look at the empty space with a mixture of wonder and fear. A Reaper, Shane and Mr. Martinez wanted to correct him but decided against embarrassing their client. Leo urged them to hurry up, as the bone collection had to be completed before dawn. After the family paid their respects, the tomb was opened. Mr. Sterling's 2 brothers held umbrellas to shield the coffin from the sky. When the lid was removed, they saw a jumbled mess of bones. scattered as if they had been shaken in a lottery machine. The family turned pale. They knew a coyote had been at work. They had seen the logo disappear. They had even seen the coyotes themselves. But this was a visceral, horrifying sight. Shane relayed Leo's instructions to begin collecting the bones, from head to toe, in order without missing a single piece. This task had to be performed by a direct descendant. With their father too old, Mr. Sterling steeled himself and approached the coffin. Using a pair of red bamboo chopsticks, he began to search for the skull. It was the easiest part to find, but when he lifted it, he saw the top of the skull was missing. He searched through the pile of bones but couldn't find it, sweat beading on his forehead. He announced that his great-grandfather's skullcap was missing. The coffin had been sealed. How could a piece be gone? He couldn't help but look at Gus. Leo suddenly remembered something and exchanged a look with Samuel. Samuel said it was probably. Leo agreed it was possibly the same one that had startled him earlier. Leo glanced at Gus, who looked away guiltily, scratched its face, and then hopped off the coffin and ran in the direction they had come from. Leo told them to wait a moment. Shane quickly relayed the message to the anxious family. The coyote returned a moment later, carrying the missing skullcap. It offered it to Mr. Sterling, who, though his skin was crawling, took it with the chopsticks and fitted it back onto the skull. It was a perfect match. Shane explained that the coyote had probably taken it earlier as part of its illusion. This explanation did little to comfort the family. Once all the bones were arranged correctly in the new coffin, the spine tied with a yellow thread to keep it intact, and spirit money and incense placed inside, the coffin was sealed. The reburial would have to wait for an auspicious day, and a trail of incense would have to be lit to guide the coffin during its journey. Leo announced that the work was done. Mr. Martinez and Shane led the others in thanking the Reaper. Those who couldn't see him bowed in his general direction, burning incense to see the two Reapers off. Leo and Samuel departed on a trail of smoke. With less than half an hour until dawn, Gus stood up on the coffin, nodded at Mr. Sterling, and then led his family into the woods. Mr. Sterling understood the gesture. The deal was made, and he should not forget to formally welcome them into his home. As he watched them go, Mr. Sterling thought he saw, for a fleeting moment, a man in a long coat and a strange hat, walking with his wife and two small children through the trees. When he looked again, the vision was gone, and the coyotes had vanished. The main work was done. Shane sighed, wondering what the internet would say now that the Pegasus was back. Mr. Martinez, who had been a stranger to him just hours before, smiled and said that Shane was a young man with a bright future. He had earned his respect. Shane felt a premonition. He was about to make a name for himself. Or rather, Mr. Standard, through him and Mr. Martinez, would become famous among LA's paranormal practitioners. The logo incident had been a major event, and he was the one who had seen it through. With Mr. Standard backing him, his status would surely rise. The thought of a future free from poverty filled him with excitement. He decided he would prepare a grand feast for Mr. Standard as a thank you, but for now he turned to Mr. Martinez and asked if he still wanted the other rotisserie chicken. He hadn't had a good corn dog in ages. After leaving the cemetery, Leo fashioned a new tag for the little donkey, Unit 001, who cherished it. Seeing this and remembering how Samuel had used a precious bead from his prayer bracelet to protect the paper animal, a thought began to form in Leo's mind. His grandfather had always warned him not to cross the line between the worlds of the living and the dead. He had often felt a pang of sadness at not being able to reveal his true self to the friends he'd made in this form. Tonight, he had felt a desire to know the living Samuel. Now, he asked himself if he could. Could he, for the first time in his life, trust someone with his secret? In the faint light of dawn, Samuel's profile was outlined against the darkness, a soft glow around him. The single golden bead on his bracelet was particularly striking, its pure gold shedding all its gaudiness in his presence. Leo asked hesitantly if Samuel would mind if he had been keeping something from him. Samuel asked what it was. Leo didn't know how to begin. He had been debating whether the time was right to be honest. Samuel misunderstood. He thought Leo was worried about his appearance. He told him not to force himself to remove his mask if he didn't want to, that he should let it happen naturally. Leo was confused for a moment, then realized Samuel must think he was disfigured or had some other gruesome feature, something that had left him with deep psychological scars. But Samuel's words touched him. It showed the depth of his consideration. Just then, a loud rooster crow echoed through the cemetery. It was a large, yellow rooster with a cloth tied to its leg, a spirit-guiding chicken. Leo realized it was probably calling for Samuel. Samuel nodded. He felt the summons. He looked at Leo expectantly, as if he had more to say. But Leo remained silent. Samuel was willing to learn more about him, but he would never want to pressure him. He could only imagine what kind of trauma could make such a cheerful spirit so reluctant to show his face. He even guessed that his own attachment to Unit 001 might be the source of Leo's unease. His expression grew serious. He told Leo to tell him when he was ready, without any reservations, whatever it was. After all, his luck seemed to be getting worse, so it wasn't as if they wouldn't see each other again. Leo couldn't help but smile. Samuel's words put him at ease and moved him deeply. He thought to himself that next time, when they met again, he might have his answer. By the time Leo's spirit returned to his body, the sky was light. He opened his eyes, still exhausted. He felt like he had forgotten something, but he was too tired to care. He rolled over and slept for another hour before finally getting up. Mr. Sterling's son was also awake. As the nanny came to get him, Mrs. Sterling poked her head in. "Leo, you're awake? Where's Julian?" Suddenly, Leo remembered what he had forgotten. He said he had gone to bed early, and that Julian had been planning to play games in the study. Mrs. Sterling went into the other room and found Julian passed out at the desk, his computer still on. She shook him awake, chiding him for pulling an all-nighter playing video games like a teenager. Julian sat up, his body cracking and groaning in protest. He couldn't believe he had fallen asleep there, and his whole body ached. He was amazed he hadn't woken up once. It was an unusually deep, almost unnaturally heavy sleep. Leo winced. His spell had worked a little too well. Julian asked Leo why he hadn't woken him. Leo just said he had been asleep before him. Julian conceded the point. He remembered how exhausted Leo had been when he arrived. He rubbed his sore neck, thoroughly annoyed. Mrs. Sterling, assuming Julian had simply passed out, told them they wouldn't need to stay another night. The matter had been resolved overnight. Mr. Sterling was still sleeping. She invited them to have breakfast. With Mr. Sterling, Mr. Martinez, and Shane all resting, Mrs. Sterling, who hadn't been at the cemetery, only knew a few details. She quietly told Julian that an altar for the coyote spirit had already been set up in one of the spare rooms, though the formal ceremony was yet to come. Worshipping a coyote spirit wasn't something they could advertise, though the family was already known for its spiritual inclinations. Leo, feigning ignorance, listened without reacting. After breakfast, Julian drove him back to the film set. He thanked him for his help and promised to treat him to a nice dinner after he wrapped filming. He said it was good to have a connection with Olympus Pictures and joked that Leo had now slept with the boss's son. Leo covered his face, unable to look at him. He retorted that the director had forced him to sleep with him and then introduced him to the boss. It was no wonder people said Hollywood was a den of iniquity. Julian sputtered with laughter, impressed by Leo's comeback. He blamed it on another actor's bad influence and told him to go corrupt Mark instead. Leo gave him a thumbs up. He planned to grab his charger from his hotel room before heading to the set. When he walked in, he found Wyatt sitting there, eating a bowl of fruit. The moment Wyatt saw him, he scrambled to hide the fruit and turned to face the wall, letting out a long sigh. He lamented Leo's return. He had been so happy by himself. What was that supposed to mean? His benefactor wasn't even there, so what was he doing having a party in his room? Leo pretended not to see him, grabbed his things and left for the set. He was a few hours late, and everyone was already gossiping. The Olympus Pictures glitch had been fixed overnight. The Olympus Pegasus Returns topic was trending. The logo was back to normal in theaters. Olympus released a vague statement about a technical issue being resolved and new digital prints being sent to theaters, thanking everyone for their concern. But an anonymous theater employee leaked that some theaters had used the old prints and the logo was still correct. This rumor, though unconfirmed, fueled the speculation. The story was now a hot topic. Paparazzi had caught photos of the various masters entering and leaving the Sterling estate, identifying them as well-known psychics and priests. It was already known that Mr. Sterling was superstitious, but this connected him directly to the logo incident. A new rumor emerged. The person who had actually solved the case was a young, up-and-coming master who was now famous in certain circles. Under public pressure, Olympus Pictures commented on their own post, claiming a technical issue was indeed the cause. A junior social media manager tried to explain it with some technical jargon, but savvy netizens immediately pointed out the flaws in the explanation. The manager then admitted that there were some unresolved technical details and that they had stumbled upon the solution by accident, urging everyone not to speculate. As a final, desperate measure, they suggested they could invite a team from a paranormal investigation TV show to look into it. The internet's collective response was a resounding yeah, right? The discussion went off the rails, with a new rumor starting that Julian had taken Leo to see Mr. Sterling to beg him not to halt production on their film. But people wondered why he would bring the second lead instead of the star. Curious fans messaged Julian directly, asking why he had taken Leo to see Mr. Sterling. Julian, bored, actually replied. He told them not to call him by his first name and that he had taken him to see Mrs. Sterling because her baby wouldn't stop crying. The fans were first shocked that he had replied, then completely baffled. Leo's reputation as a baby whisperer was now solidified. No one had expected an actor to get in with a studio head through childcare expertise. People wondered if the Sterlings couldn't afford a proper nanny. Then, mothers in the comments started recommending Leo, saying they had learned many useful tips from him. This, in turn, misled a whole new group of people into thinking Leo was the name of a new parenting app. The Olympus Pictures incident was destined to become an unsolved urban legend. Leo hadn't told anyone on set about his visit to the Sterlings, but the media had inadvertently revealed it. Ethan cornered him, demanding to know the real story. Leo stuck to his story, insisting he didn't know anything. He had just been there to help with the baby, and Mr. Sterling had told him to always believe in science. Ethan was completely bewildered. He couldn't understand why a man with a massive spiritual array in his office would tell someone not to be superstitious. Leo just shrugged, suggesting that maybe he believed in covering all his bases. That evening, when Leo returned to his room, Old Man Bill was waiting for him. He flopped onto the bed, his long, spectral tongue lolling out of his mouth. He complained about how exhausting his day of soul collecting had been and how offerings weren't what they used to be. It was a tough life. After all, spirits depended on human belief, and humans depended on their protection. But the power of spirits was fueled by human faith and offerings. And sometimes, even spirits needed the endorsement of mortal rulers. The pantheon of gods was constantly changing, influenced by humanity. The Department of Transitions had once been the most powerful institution in the underworld, and now it had been merged with the central administration. The worlds of humans, gods, and ghosts were inextricably linked. Leo agreed. He remembered how his grandfather used to make intricate paper offerings, but now people just wanted cheap, slapped-together versions. He lit a stick of incense for Bill, telling him to put his tongue away. Bill slurped it back in, inhaled the fragrant smoke, and asked what had happened with the coyote. He wondered if Leo had ended up having to deal with it himself. Leo noticed a strange look on his face and asked what he meant. Bill said it was nothing, just that he had a fox spirit connection, had saved a raccoon spirit, and now had dealt with a coyote. He was just one rattlesnake away from a full set of the critter cabal. Leo retorted that they were the ones who kept latching onto him, not the other way around. He then recounted the story of how he had captured and dealt with the coyote. Bill roared with laughter at the tale of the ridiculous coyote trying to pull a fast one on Leo. He was busy, but the story was a welcome distraction. He teased Leo for numbering his paper donkey, saying the coyote probably thought it was a joke. Leo just smiled, saying he liked things to be orderly. He then threatened to name Bill Unit 002. Bill cursed at him, saying he could tolerate being called his son, but Unit 002 was too much. Leo just asked if the vixen had a number in his favorites list, and if Bill had a problem with that. Bill grumbled and fell silent. After a few jokes, Bill seemed more relaxed. A ghostly smile spread across his dead face. He commented that Leo's dedication to his underworld job seemed to be growing. He had even taken the initiative to help them find the coyote. He suggested Leo just serve out his full term as a reaper, since he was always hungry anyway. Leo hesitated. The job did help him understand human emotion, which was good for his acting. And he had met Samuel because of it. The part-time gig wasn't as bad as he had initially thought. But his grandfather's S still echoed in his mind. He told Bill no, that he was just a concerned citizen. But he said Bill could still keep him updated and he would keep an eye out. The underworld was a dangerous business, and many powerful practitioners had met bad ends. Leo felt that doing one job well was hard enough. Bill laughed. He mentioned that several other members of the Critter Cabal had been robbed recently, just like the Vixen's family. The Reapers were getting fewer offerings, and so were the spirits in the hills. He then quietly told Leo the true locations of the 5 primary anchors of the city. It was information known only to a select few. The list was slightly different from the popular legends Chloe had mentioned, but the Serenity Bell Tower was indeed one of them, a steadfast beacon for centuries. Leo nodded, promising to keep it a secret. Bill just laughed, saying that even if he told people, who would believe him? He was, after all, the least superstitious person in Hollywood. A few days later, Leo finished filming, wrapping 2 days before Ethan and Chloe. They said their goodbyes, promising to see each other again, though with their busy schedules, it was hard to say when that would be. And then there was the matter of Wyatt, who was currently squatting next to his suitcase, clearly intending to follow him home. Leo sighed and had Old Man Bill send a message to the Vixen's family to avoid any awkward encounters. He didn't want his cover blown in front of Wyatt. And given Wyatt's personality, if he found out Leo could see him all along, he would probably die of social anxiety. His phone rang. It was Julian. He was outside, ready to pick him up. Julian, along with a couple of other actor friends, had come to celebrate his rap party with a big dinner. Julian had also invited the Sterlings, who would meet them at the restaurant. Leo went out to the car. His actor friends were in the back. As he opened the trunk to put his luggage in, Wyatt slipped inside and lay down with a sigh of relief. Leo, pretending not to notice, placed his suitcase on top of him and got into the passenger seat. Julian cheered that Leo could finally have a proper meal. Leo smiled, but his friend in the back seat immediately started lecturing him about not overindulging. That an actor needed self-control to look good on camera, especially if he spent too much time with a glutton like Julian. Julian just laughed, looking at Leo expectantly, but was disappointed to see no trace of sadness on his face. He muttered that it must be his acting skills. Julian, a renowned foodie, had booked a table at the Gilded Age, a restaurant specializing in historical American cuisine. In the old days of New York and Washington, wealthy families and politicians employed skilled chefs to create elaborate dishes for their many social functions, blending various culinary traditions. Over time, these private recipes had become famous, and now, like Monastery Alesh, they were available to the public. The chef at this restaurant was a descendant of the cook for a Gilded Age railroad tycoon, whose table was once legendary. Naturally, their specialty was lavish dishes made with exotic ingredients. The restaurant was located in a 3-story brownstone, a former private residence of some forgotten aristocrat. The rent alone must have been astronomical. The interior was filled with expensive antiques. Consequently, the prices were high. As they walked in, Leo heard Wyatt whisper beside him that this was the kind of place he had always dreamed of, big enough for a proper shrine. If someone built him a shrine in a place like this, he would ensure they never ran out of firewood or rice. Leo thought, in your dreams. Anyone who could afford a place like this in the city didn't need his help with firewood. The memory of Wyatt's previous digs at his poverty stung him again. He rubbed his chest. Who even used firewood anymore? One of his friends asked if he was feeling all right. Wyatt, hearing this, immediately looked over, ready to perform a healing. Leo forced a smile and said he was perfectly fine. A waiter led them to a private room on the top floor, saying Mr. and Mrs. Sterling had already arrived and were having drinks. As Leo stepped into the room, he saw a man in a tweed suit and a bowler hat sitting on the veranda, gnawing on a chicken leg. He was maybe in his late 30s with round, beady eyes. Leo glanced at him once and then looked away. He wasn't human. Although many of the staff at the Gilded Age wore period costumes, Leo could instantly sense his non-human aura. He felt a strange sense of familiarity, as if he had seen him somewhere before. His friend pointed to a large, intricate sculpture in the corner, a twisted piece of driftwood carved into the form of a celestial being. The waiter proudly explained that the piece was called Stardust, carved from a 1,000-year-old piece of redwood burl, and had been purchased for a small fortune. At that moment, the man in the bowler hat noticed them. He wasn't interested in the humans, but his eyes fixed on Wyatt. Wyatt, feeling his gaze, immediately tried to hide behind Leo, which was difficult as he was slightly taller. The man stood up, still holding his chicken leg, and swaggered over. He pointed at Wyatt, his voice loud and arrogant, asking what a prickly little thing like him was doing here. He spoke as if he owned the place. Wyatt shrank back, stammering, "Sir, I..."